Hi class, it's Miss Miller, and today our lecture title is The Ultimate Prize, the theme. Now, when I think of theme, I think of my childhood. And when I was a little girl, I would get the box of Cracker Jacks and I would dump all of it on the table just so I can get that prize. I oftentimes also thought about Captain Crunch, right? I'd get my cereal and I'd eat all the cereal. My brother and I would be at the breakfast table and we'd eat that Captain Crunch cereal. And we just could not wait until we got a hold of that prize that was inside of the box. And we were so excited. Or even fortune cookie, right? You're eating your food. At the bottom of the bag would be that fortune cookie. We would take it out, open it up, eat the cookie, and we'd be so excited about what it was that the message was inside. We were so looking forward to seeing what it was that it had to say to us and how it spoke to our lives. So when I think of theme, I think of all these things, and I think of a literature book. For example, we could literally take a literature book, and if we shake it up really good, we might get this thing called theme. How exciting is that? So that's the connection that I have for you. Now, this is a true story, okay? I remember always on the way to work, and I'd listen to music, right? And I would be jamming to Drake's song, Fake Love, and I'm thinking, what is he talking about? Like, I really don't get it. So one day I came across a group of kids who were sitting out at lunch, and I asked them, I said, hey, listen, I can tell that you're listening to Fake Love, and I'm really confused. As a literature teacher, I really just have to get to the bottom of this. What is Drake talking about? And so we were hitting pause and rewind and fast forward, and they took the time to explain to me what each of the lines meant and what it was that Drake was trying to get to. And I said, oh, I get it. So we're just reading between the lines. They were teaching me the message in the music. And I said, okay. So I knew then that you had the skill to do this in most areas of your life. But what was exciting to know is that you could also do this with literature. So I developed this acronym that would make it easy for you when it comes to theme. All right. So a theme, as defined as the human. All right. So we have the, and the H stands for human, which is you and I, all of us, right? Human beings. Experience. The E standing for E for experience. This, listen, we're all a part of the same world, and we are trying to navigate this thing called life. And so in life, we have these experiences, and we're trying to figure out the meaning of most things, right? And you know what? This is a culture obsessed, right, with meaning and messages. I mean, we have text messages, we have email messages, we have direct messages, we have all sorts of messages coming to us all the time, and really we want someone to tell us, like, how do we do this thing called life, right? And so in this case, we look to literature to help guide us in many cases. Now the E in theme stands for the essence of the story, or you come to some sort of epiphany about what the meaning of the text is. So again, theme is the human experience, the message, the moral, the meaning, and the essence or the epiphany of what it is that we're reading in literature or in art or music, for that sake. So theme is everywhere, right? You can find meaning in every area of your life. In fact, it depends on your own perception and your circumstances. You could wake up in the morning and have the best of life, and the people around you are good. So you perhaps develop this idea that in general, people are wonderful, that people are inherently good people. Or that might not work for you. Maybe life is tough and you don't have it so great, and the people around you don't handle things the way you would like. And so perhaps the perception you have of life is, this is tough. People are impatient and unkind. And so you draw your own conclusion. And that is your discovery or your meaning. And you take that with you wherever you go. And the good thing about literature is you're going to be exposed to all different types of experiences and meanings and messages. And so it doesn't mean that we all agree, right? And that isn't always true. What's true for you isn't necessarily true for me. And we may differentiate a little bit on the message, but we certainly can agree on what the actual message is in a particular text. So there's two ways in which the theme might be presented to us as a student in literature. It might be explicit, right? You might get the message, you look at your book and you're reading, and it literally might say what the theme is. I mean, of course you have to find it, but it could say, when left to their own devices, human beings are inherently evil creatures. That might be explicitly stated word for word in the text. Or it might be what's called implicit. Look at this text message we have here, where students have to, as readers, we have to draw that conclusion. So in one message, we see Jack tells someone else, let's get him, guys. He isn't looking. Prepare to strike. And then we see in the next response, I never liked him anyway. And Jack goes on to say, that'll show him. And then his peer says, you're a great leader, Jack. Now, we could see implicit or implied that when left to their own devices, human beings are inherently evil creatures. We could sort of detect that. Obviously, we'd have to get the context of the text messages, but that's implied. It doesn't tell us directly what the theme is. We have to figure it out. We have to look for evidence throughout the text to determine that. Now, when I think of the formula for theme and how it's derived, I think of, like, if I wanted to write a book, if I were writing a book today and I had my own unique experience, right? So I would take unique experience. Maybe perhaps I have a friend, her name is Peggy, and Peggy somehow betrays my trust. Maybe I tell her a secret and she tells a group of people, and so now I'm embarrassed and ashamed. And so I form an opinion about Peggy, and I say to myself, Peggy cannot be trusted. I can't believe she did this to me. But then I want to tell everybody, hey, listen, don't trust Peggy. But nobody knows who Peggy is. So then I've got to come up with this universal statement, because I know even though they don't know my friend Peggy, they have a Peggy in their life. So I might say to myself, hey, listen, in general, be careful who you have really close to you, and be careful what you tell them, because not everything is safe. And so that's what makes it a theme, is when it becomes a universal statement. Now, the development of a theme can happen in several ways, and we're just going to talk about a few, right? One is through character, and this perhaps for me is the easiest way to determine the theme of a story. I can follow a character from the beginning of a text all the way through the end and see some of their trials and what happens to them, and that can help me figure out the theme. Now, sometimes in poetry, there aren't necessarily characters, right? So I might have to look for symbols or repetition or even patterns to help me figure out the theme. Or collectively, these items might work together to help me figure out the meaning of a story, or a short story, or an extended a novel, an article, a piece of art. It could be anything that you can find the meaning for. So I've come up with this template that will help us sort of construct a thematic statement. So once we figure out this theme, we want it to sound very sophisticated. So here is a universal statement that we could all use, and you can perhaps omit the first phrase, but I like to use it. According to D. Keys. When it comes to, and then you come up with your topic, whatever the topic of the story is. Remember, in literature, there can be multiple themes, right? It could be love, it could be life, it could be pain, it could be suffering, whatever the topic is, whatever it's about, relationships, right? You pick a topic, and then you say mankind, or people in general, or man, oftentimes struggle with, and you hear this, man versus self, man versus society, man versus nature, man versus man. So you look at your text and you try to figure out which one is appropriate for your theme. Like if I think of man versus self, I think of like the story Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison, right? And this character is nameless throughout the entire text, but that's man versus self. So if I were filling out a template, that's what I would put. Or man versus society, perhaps like Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, maybe I might have that. Or man versus nature. When I think of that, I think of Ernest Hemingway's Old Man and the Sea, or man versus man, right? And actually with society, I think I would even go with 1984, and then man versus man might be where I would go with Heart of Darkness, and they're all interchangeable, and it's not necessarily specific to one, but you pick one that would be appropriate for your thematic statement, and then you say, therefore, human beings have a whatever is human nature for people, right? A propensity, inclination, natural tendency. You select one of those to do what? What is it that they do? What is it that the character in your story did? Which can lead to what? And this may often happen. And so that's how I like to discover my thematic statements in a text. I hope that was helpful. We talked about what is a theme, right? I gave you the acronym for theme. We also talked about the difference between explicit and implicit, and then what a template might look like. I hope that was helpful. Thank you.